Welcome to the Super Gamer Podcast. Welcome to the new Super Gamer Podcast, episode 170. Our guest this week writes songs about video games and other songs as well. He's actually written music for TV shows like Project Runway and The Wendy Williams Show. Is a music teacher, a former explorer of the sea. It is Dean DiMarzo, also known as Longest Solo Ever. Thank you for being here.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so 16 years ago, you started your YouTube channel. It began, you were a teenager, and it began with a cover of Through the Fire and Flames by Dragon Force.
Yes.
And that video now has 1.8 million views. Was that, like, successful right away, or when did we reach that point?
So I don't think I still have access to the analytics from that point. Like, that was in the real early days of YouTube. But I think it took off maybe a month or two after I posted it. It did go pretty, like, it was over 1 million within a year or so. So it went pretty big pretty fast. So
why didn't you stick with that formula? Why did you move away from the Dragon Force?
That's the question. Because I was 16 and didn't understand anything resembling like business or marketing or anything. I understood guitar playing. But B, it was 2007 or 6. I guess I posted that in 2006. Yeah. It was 2006 and you couldn't be a YouTuber professionally. That wasn't a thing yet. There was no YouTube partner program. There was no Spotify or really easy way to get online distribution going, let alone licensing of covers and everything like that properly. So there was no real reason to go down that road in a way that made sense. I was just getting ready to go to music school, and the path was, go to music school, maybe go work in a recording studio down in Nashville or LA or something. Being a professional YouTuber just literally wasn't in the vocabulary yet.
Well, what you pivoted to, which is, video game and other things, but that seems to have worked out anyway, because now you're getting millions of views on stuff like Friday Night Funkin' music and other things as well. But the reason I even ask about, why not stick with that winning formula is I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with Friday Night Funkin', when you first started getting into that, you didn't like it, but it did so well that you were like, well, I guess I'm stuck with this.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Like the very first song I covered from that game, one of my subscribers sent it to me, said, "Hey, you've probably never heard of this game before, but this song just came out last night and it has 1 million views already. I feel like you should consider covering it." And I listened and I was like, oh my God, this is, it's a very specific sound. It's somewhat of an acquired taste. I did grow to enjoy the music and I really got into it. I wouldn't have stuck with it for 2 years if I hadn't. But that first song, I was like, I wasn't quite feeling it. A lot of it does not translate to the guitar very comfortably. Like, it's not written for a physical instrument. So it's unpleasant to play for the fingers at the very least. But yeah, it blew up. I found joy in the way I could rearrange those songs. And that's really what it comes down to. My favorite thing in music is the arranging process. It's taking the raw material of a song, the chords, the melody, the vibe, and then taking that somewhere else entirely. And whether I'm doing something like the album Green Hill Funk that I did, where I took a bunch of Sonic songs and took them to like a classic Motown kind of feel, or the Friday Night Funkin' thing, taking those songs from their original hip hop and hyperpop kind of sound over to a metal genre. I just like looking at music from different angles. So I was still able to find joy in that for sure.
I know you've posted on your Twitter a little while back. Someone thought they were calling you out, I guess, saying something along the lines of like, I wish you did your own stuff instead of pandering to people. Is there anything at this point, like, do you make anything begrudgingly? Or you're like, well, this is going to be good for the algorithm? Or is it, you're like, no, I'm only going to do something I enjoy?
No, because, well, for one thing, and I say this all the time, the algorithm, much like Soylent Green, is people. Like, anytime anybody says, oh, the algorithm likes this, the algorithm finally picked up my videos. No, people liked your videos and more people were watching it. So YouTube shows it to more people. That's it. That's all it ever is. If you're trying to please the algorithm, you're trying to please people, your audience. But with that said, I mean, that's nothing new in the industry. There's always things that are very clearly made because the audience wants it and maybe not necessarily because the artist wants it, right? So am I in that position? No. I actually just made like a huge 20 tweet long thread about that this morning, which is finding the overlap between what you find joy in the process and what the audience wants. And then the third leg of that stool is being really good at it, or being good enough to be passable in the audience's eyes. But in my case, like, my joy is writing songs, producing songs, and arranging them for a specific style. I don't care what I'm writing about. I truly could care less what the topic of the song is. I'll pick the 4 or 5 most popular topics in the scene at any given moment, and I'll throw them out on a YouTube poll. I'm interested in writing songs about any and all of them. I can find something fun to write in there. I'll throw them on a YouTube poll. Whichever one gets the most views, or the most votes, I write about. That's it. I'll write it in whatever style I want. I don't say like, oh, do you want me to write a hardcore song or a speed metal song or a dubstep? No, that's up to me. That's my call. That's where my fun is. And I've proved enough in my weird and wide-ranging discography that my audience, their taste is in what I'm doing. It's not necessarily a specific genre. It's not like metal songs completely outperform the EDM stuff I'm doing, or vice versa. So I've kind of proved I can do whatever I want, genre-wise and production-wise, as long as I'm doing the topic they want, which is a perfectly reasonable agreement to have with my audience. I'm very happy with that.
What about, one of the things you do is you live stream your song creation process, and do you think that affects the end product at all? Like, is there sort of there's obviously a performance aspect to what you're doing there, so do you think that affects how the song is made?
Yeah, it's nice to have like instant feedback, for one thing, and I can kind of get a sense of whether they're vibing with it or not, but I very rarely let that dictate where it goes. Like this past week, we were streaming, we're writing another like Sonic.exe creepy Sonic song, and I was taking it in a New Jack Swing direction, like 90s hip hop and R&B, Bobby Brown, Belle Biv DeVoe, that kind of thing. And the first hour of the stream, chat was like, what is he doing? Where is this going? This doesn't make any sense. But by the end of it, they were loving it because I hit the vision I was looking for. The reason I like doing the live streams, for one, it's the best way to connect with your audience. It keeps me, keeps a finger on the pulse of what they're into. And the same goes with my Discord. It's why I have that. It's so I can just like really know what they're into at any given moment and connect with them on that and share like in the enjoyment of that. And the live streams are the same. But it also keeps me on task because if 200 people are watching me do something, I can't just, lose track and go scroll TikTok for an hour, So it's very good in that regard. I don't let it dictate what I do, though, as far as actual production and genre. Like, that's up to me. And often, and this is the thing I say most on those live streams, most of the time we are writing for the trash can. We are just writing music that is going to get trashed because it doesn't turn out good. 5 out of every 6 songs I write do not get finished because they don't go well. But that 6th song ends up getting 1 million views. So it's part of the process for me, writing crappy material that is not going to work out to get to the good stuff.
Have you unbanned the words Toby and Andrew in your chat yet?
Yes, I did. I did as soon as I noticed it. Yeah, that's from when No Way Home was coming out, Spider-Man No Way Home. My wife and I are massive MCU fans, and I've been a lifelong Spider-Man fan. He's always been my favorite. There was a lot of buzz leading up to No Way Home that all 3 Spider-Men were going to be in it. And I didn't want to spoil myself, but of course I didn't want any of my audience to get spoiled. So I made a channel in my Discord called Movie Spoilers, where you could react with a specific role and you'd get added to that channel. And anyone mentioning any of those words outside that channel would get muted instantaneously by the Discord bot. And same goes for on my live streams. Those were banned words. I think I took them out of the Discord immediately, but like a week or two after the movie came out. And I forgot about it in the YouTube chat for about 2 years. I caught that the other day and made a tweet about it.
Was there anything else where you just happened to be looking like, oh, why? I don't even remember why I banned this word?
I think I was in there. I was changing like some administrative stuff, like, location or tax stuff or something, just to make sure that was all clear. But and then I saw that and I was like, oh no.
So you mentioned your Green Hill Funk arrangement. First, why do you love Sonic music so much? Why does that resonate with you?
Yeah, it was the first anything. It was the first music I really got into. It was the first video game soundtrack I heard. It was the first video game I had was Sonic the Hedgehog 2. So I heard that music a lot, as you do when you're playing a game. It loops endlessly in the background. So I particularly heard Emerald Hill Zone a million times, Chemical Plant a million times, and then, decreasing amounts as you get through the game, of course. But those songs stuck with me in a huge way. And from there, video game music as a whole would stick with me hugely. The Mega Man soundtrack probably, or Mega Man X specifically on the Super Nintendo, definitely was my first taste of like guitar music and metal. And a lot of what I'm into now really traces back to typically a video game of some kind. So Green Hill Funk was it was my love letter to the Sonic music. It was my love letter to Wolfpack, who I was hugely into at the time. Their sound, this like retro funk, Motown infused lo-fi kind of sound. So I was like, I would love to try to recreate that sound as much as possible. And also I was reading Scott Bradley's autobiography, his memoir. He's what do they call it? Postmodern Jukebox, that band. He's the band leader and founder of that. So I was reading his bio at the time, and something about it, I was on a train back from New York City, which is like the most stereotypical hoity-toity musician sentence ever. But I was reading this book on the train, and the arrangement for my City Escape cover on that album came to me. And I just started like frantically writing down notes of like, this tempo and this feel, and the bass line should be like this, and there should be congas in the background. Like I heard just like everything came to me. I tried to communicate that in language to my future self. And then the next day I just started sketching out arrangements for the whole album. And it took about a year, but I finished it. It was fun.
I find driving is when I get most ideas. Most what I would hope are good ideas.
Yes, there's a huge thing to that. I'm reading The Creative Act by Rick Rubin right now. And he clarified a lot of what I've discovered, which is the best ideas come to me when I'm as far from a musical instrument as possible. Like, but most importantly, if I'm doing something else, kind of not engaging the mind so much. Like if I am just falling asleep, if I'm taking a shower, if I'm out on a walk or a run, like I had 3 full songs come to me while my wife and I were walking around Disney World last year. Like 3 of my big hit songs all came to me at once in like a day there. So anytime I'm somewhere I physically cannot make music, my brain is probably working on it in the background and something will happen. And then I'll like frantically start either jotting down notes or find a corner and record like a quick voice memo singing whatever comes to me. And then I'll go recreate that as soon as I get home.
So are there people walking around like, who's this weirdo, like ba-da-da-da into his phone?
Absolutely. We were out shopping and we got out to the car in the parking lot. And I said to my wife, like, just ignore me for the next 30 seconds. And I just like beatboxed and hummed into my phone. And she's looking at me like I'm crazy, but she knows it'll, pay the bills this year. So it works out.
What was it like having, I hope I don't mispronounce this, but Jun Sanu, composer for Sonic, they reached out to you and were like, love your arrangement. Can we use it?
Yes. So twice actually he's reached out. The first was about 4 years ago. We had literally just moved into this house. It was actually like 4 years ago on the dot. We were moving, and he emails me. He says, "Hey, I found your YouTube channel. I watched like all your videos. So already I'm freaking out. And particularly, he loved my arrangement of Escape from the City. And he was doing a tour at the time, and he wanted to play my arrangement on tour. So he wanted me to send him the MIDI files for it, for like the keyboard parts and anything else MIDI that he could like transcribe into sheet music. And of course, all my stuff is in boxes. I don't have internet at the new place yet. I don't have anything, you know? So I like quickly dug out my computer and dropped the MIDI files onto like a USB drive, and then put that onto my laptop and ran to a Panera and uploaded the files. Like it was the most crazy, inconvenient time for that to happen. But of course I was ecstatic. So he played that arrangement on that tour that year. And then a couple years after, he said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember this, but and I'm like, "Of course I remember this. Are you kidding me?" It's a highlight of my life. But we did this, and I'd love to record your arrangement with the singer from the Persona series as well, the soundtracks of that game. So and I'm blanking on her name, Lynn Inayazumi. So she sang on it, and I mean, to hear her sing my arrangement with him playing, you know, the band, it was amazing. And he sent me 2 copies of the CD, which are still unopened in their package. I'm staring at them right now. They're on my shelf, and a business card of his. So that's like that's one of my prized possessions now. Yeah, that was unbelievable. So that second email was him asking for permission to do that, which obviously I said, "Yes, please, God, yes."
That's so cool.
And it was super cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to say, so I reached out to you through a DM on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And unbeknownst to me, you actually have a video telling people how not to DM someone you're looking to work with. So I have to ask you to rate and critique my DM. I have
to go read it now. Hang on. I don't remember exactly what it was. So you said, "Hi, Dean. Would you be interested in recording an interview with me for Super Gamer Podcast? Would love to ask you about blah, blah, blah." Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. 100%. Because there's most importantly, you got specific in the first message. You didn't just say, "Hi," which is what so many of them are. And B, I mean, you also just inherently in your profile, it's very clear who you are, what you do, what you, for lack of a better word, have to offer in an interaction. You know, like I get some sense of like what you're going to ask me, what we could do together. You're not a random default profile picture with no bio and your tweets are just all memes, you know, and you just say hi. Like that gives me nothing to work with. And the effort I then need to put in to find out, what do you want? Where's this conversation going? You know, is greatly reduced because it's so clear who you are, how we could work together, why it'd be fun to talk to you. And then, yeah, you got specific in your message. Would you like to talk to me for this podcast? And yeah, of course. And then finally, like and I hate being so like capitalist about this, but like there's inherent value in what you offered in that first message. You know, would you like to interview me? Would you be interested in interviewing on this podcast? And that's a win for me. That's marketing. It's something I want to do more of, is be on podcasts. And it's not just asking for most of the messages I get, which is, "Hey, will you write a song for my mod? My Friday Night Funkin' mod." Which I don't know how familiar you or the audience is with Friday Night Funkin', but the modding scene is 99% of what that game is. People create basically their own entire fan games with songs and artwork and charting and everything from scratch. It's an incredible scene. It is truly, I think it's given birth to more musicians at the very least, than any other game, maybe besides like some of the larger rhythm game scenes like Stepmania or something, or Osu. But really, it birthed this whole new generation of artists and musicians and this community. It's the new, and I know it spawned from Newgrounds, but I really think it's the new Newgrounds is this scene. You think of how many people came from Newgrounds. You think of like, why am I blanking on his name? Aaron Hansen. You know, people who we consider like huge YouTubers now, who all started as artists and animators on Newgrounds. Oni and all these folks. You're gonna see that in the next 5 years from Friday Night Funkin'. So people DM me, hey, will you write a song for my mod? I don't know who you are. I don't know if I should associate with you. I know nothing about you from looking at your profile. So are you going to come out as a hateful, bigoted person in the next year? And now I'll be tied to that, you know? So it's, which happens so much in this scene, unfortunately. Yeah. People are, bad things come out about people, and you get scared about kind of hitching your brand to someone else's. You have to be very cautious. So I do vet everything and everyone I choose to associate with. And it's nice when you just make it clear what you're about, you know?
You obviously have videos to go with your music. You wear a lot of different shirts in your videos. Is this intentional, or you just happen to wear, you filmed it on this day, you're wearing this shirt?
Man, that is not something I would have said about myself, because I think of my wardrobe as very limited.
I just noticed in the same like your guitar obviously switches from scene to scene, and your shirt switches with it.
Yes. So that is something I did do intentionally in a lot of videos. Because I'm trying to think of the words to say this. There's an inherent amount of fakery in any music video, for one thing. The facade of, we're all playing this live, like no music video is live. Even live concert videos are often redubbed in the studio. Like that's a dirty secret in the music industry. So all my music videos since 2017, 2018, actually no, sorry, since like 2020, are lip synced and hand synced. The crazier thing is, before that they weren't. I played everything live, which is so time consuming and silly. And when I realized I didn't have to do that, it was like 1,000-pound weight was lifted off me. So, but yeah, there's an inherent facade in that we're playing this live. Any human could play all these instruments at once. That's completely a fantasy. So now you have to kind of continue suspending that disbelief. You can't break the kayfabe there, you know? So I'll use different guitars for different parts. I try to switch up the lighting between different instruments, especially for the Friday Night Funkin' things, where I'm kind of, each guitar represents a character. So the player character, who's usually a small blue-haired person named Boyfriend, usually has a blue background with my red guitar. And then the opponent, I'll choose a guitar and background color that I think visually represents them best from the selection I have. And then I'll switch the shirt too, because it's weird if the shirt doesn't change in my mind. Maybe that's a silly line to draw for me, but something about that. That's what a lot of the decisions come down to, is how can I really make you think this isn't just literally the same shot of the same person standing in the exact same spot in the same room between these two camera angles. And I do the same now with my live videos, even though I'm not representing different characters anymore. I don't change the shirt anymore typically. Okay. But I will change the camera angle. So vocals will be straight on, guitar will be kind of coming from the left and maybe up higher, bass will be over from the right, and that way it almost feels like you're looking at a stage, at a bunch of people on a stage, the different camera angles of that. and it helps a little bit.
Looking at different people all with the same face.
Yes, somehow. A band of identical siblings. Yes.
So your latest song release, Code Red, doing very well. How have you seen people react? What's your reaction to the reception that it has had?
Blown away, because honestly, I am the worst judge of how well something is going to do. Sometimes I know it's going to do really well. Like Overthrown, I knew was going to be big because its predecessor, Intruder, which is also both songs are about the Mandela Catalog, an analog horror YouTube video series. Its predecessor, Intruder, did hugely. It's one of my big songs. And Overthrown, I did everything that made Intruder a good song. I just cranked it up to 11. I made it as catchy and poppy and dancey as possible. It's more than anything else, the influences behind my songs, I think they're unexpected. Like the influence for that song was Dua Lipa and Harry Styles were like two of the biggest inspirations there. So I knew that was going to be big. It was poppy. It was catchy. I couldn't get it out of my head. I couldn't stop listening to it. Anytime I can't stop listening to a song, I know it's going to be big. And it did very well. The music video did very well. And then Code Red, I was like kind of mad it had to follow two of my favorite songs I've ever written, Overthrown and then The End of All Things, which was a Sonic Frontiers song. And then Code Red, like, it's cool. It's fun. It's not my favorite song I've ever written. I'm very happy with it, but it's not, if I had to pick a favorite, it's not that one. So I was surprised that it is really outperforming everything else I've ever posted, every other original. So I'm blown away by that and very thankful. And I kind of accept that there's not a ton of accuracy on my part. In a sense, I'm kind of taking a bit of a shotgun approach. I'm just going to keep writing songs that I think are mostly in the target area of what I think is going to do well. And then, I try not to attach myself to the outcome too much, which almost backfires on me because I don't even notice when a song does well. It takes my fans going, dude, Code Red just hit 100K for me to go, oh, it did, didn't it? Because I'm over here working on the next thing. I'm obsessing about the next project. I invest myself in the process, not in the outcomes, because the outcomes are fickle and unpredictable. But the process, I know I am always going to sit down and write. I can't fail to physically pick up a guitar and make noises on it. I can fail to make something I'm really excited about, but that's not the part I'm focused on. I'm focused on the process.
Well, whatever you're doing lately seems to be working because your subscribers are going up to the point where you may have to do a live stream celebration. You said at 300,000 subscribers, you do a live show.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a tradition in that I did a 100K concert. And then I did a 200K concert. And both of those were very Friday Night Funkin' focused because that's what I was doing at the time. That's what my most popular material was. And this would be the first time I'd be performing vocal songs on my channel, which is daunting. It's a little intimidating because I was a guitarist first and foremost on my channel for 15 years, not that I wasn't ever singing and not that I don't sing in my real life music work. I perform every weekend with my wife at like restaurants and wineries and stuff. I've been a part of like local theater scenes for years. And it's just that mostly it's the fact that these original songs are, every one of them is performed and recorded at the absolute edge of my ability. I am always trying to do the craziest thing I can do, sing the craziest vocal parts, the highest notes, the most aggressive tone, and at the absolute edge of performance. And that's fine in a vocal booth at, 9 a.m. when I have a nice cup of tea and I'm rested and I sing one song and I can do it for a minute at a time and then take a break. The thought of doing it for an hour on end, while I can sing, Beatles songs at wineries for 4 hours straight, no problem. That's easy. The thought of singing longest solo ever songs for even 1 hour straight is it's difficult. So I'm practicing a lot right now to get in shape just to do that. And also play these guitar parts at the same time. That is hard because I'm writing hard stuff there too. So the concert I haven't really publicly talked about what the concert would be. And I haven't even like properly announced it or anything. I will as it gets closer. I want to do something that really kind of checks all the boxes of like, yeah, the nerdcore stuff, but also I'd love to do some of my really early like video game covers, Sonic and Mega Man X and that stuff. And then also, of course, some Friday Night Funkin' stuff. I think that has to be in there. That's an important part of my history on here. And I think it'll be fun. And it's definitely going to be for a charity as well. I haven't 100% decided on one. But originally, I was planning to do this concert for Pride Month last year. And I was practicing. I had the concert scheduled. I was about to announce it. And I was practicing. I'm like, I just can't sing this stuff. I can't do it yet. I can't do it for an hour yet. So I felt so bad because I was so excited to do something for a charity benefiting, an LGBTQ plus charity. And I just could not get it together in time. So that is what the concert will be benefiting. It's just going to be a little late, but I think that's okay.
As far as singing, you said something I found very interesting on the Mink and the Monk podcast.
Oh, wow. You listened to that. Awesome.
I did, yeah. And you mentioned how you and the hosts are instrumentalists foremost. Mm-hmm. So lyrics are kind of secondary to you. I'm a singer, so lyrics mean a lot to me.
Yeah.
But I really liked what you said about, I'm paraphrasing obviously, but you basically said that you treat lyrics like the sounds of the words has a melody to it, right? So you're almost writing in a like you don't necessarily want you're more focused on what the word sounds like and how that is a song in itself than you are about the meaning of the word.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to look up a quick fact check before I get this wrong, and it's on tape forever. Yes. Okay, good. Make sure the story I'm about to tell is right. So that comes back to, that is such a pop music like ethos, I think. The best story describing that is, I think, Max Martin and Hit Me Baby One More Time, Britney Spears. That sentence, like, hit me baby one more time, he was trying to say, like, hit me up. Like, he misunderstood that sentence because he's Swedish. His English wasn't amazing at the time. And so he wrote that line, hit me baby one more time, to say, like, hey, call me back. But it doesn't make sense, but it sounds so good. And similar things have happened. I forget which Backstreet Boys song it was, but there's another one where the lyrics just don't make a ton of sense when you really sit down with them. And again, it was Max Martin. And so the label hired another songwriter to come in and rewrite the lyrics to say the same thing, but with like more sensical English. And it just didn't sound good because these words have a musicality to them. When you really break it down, like the shapes of words, vowels and stuff are frequencies, right? And there's a harmony in there if you want to get really, really heady about it. But I think most importantly, it comes down to the thing I'm such a stickler for, and the thing I call my chat out on when they're suggesting lyrics and I'm writing, is syllable stress. Making sure that the accent in a word and the way the meter of that word falls, whether, it's a trochee, with the stress on the first of two syllables or any of that stuff. I'm a real stickler for making sure that the rhythm of the word fits the rhythm of what I'm singing it as. Because otherwise you end up sounding like you're saying, you're putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable, And I'll have moments in my songwriting streams where I'll say, like, hey, I really need a word to fit ba-da-da. And people will suggest things that have 3 syllables, but do not fit that rhythm. And like that one, what I ended up settling on was listening, like, and that fits. But you could say, like, my breakfast, and that doesn't work, you know?
Right.
It doesn't feel good coming. I don't know why. I just ate breakfast. It's afternoon. It's
very late, yeah.
But yeah, the rhythm of words is so, so important to me more than anything else. And so when I'm writing, I will usually sketch out a piano melody first, and then I'll have vowel sounds, you know, I'll go ba da da. And then from there, it'll start to form into words very slowly.
Yeah, I love it. It's cool. And I definitely, I wish I had an example handy, but like I do the odd parody song here. And there are definitely times when, I'm trying to fit something in and I've got all the syllables in, but I'm like, this doesn't fit for some reason.
You can feel when it's forced. Yeah, exactly.
What about why the rebrand? You have a music teaching channel. Why did you rebrand from Dean Talks Music to Quick Start Music?
Yeah, that came from, so Dean Talks Music was an older channel I've had for years. I knew when I started Quick Start Music is my online music school and courses. I knew I wanted that to be not my name specifically for branding reasons, for business reasons. I wanted it to be easily memorable. I wanted it to communicate specifically what it was. You know, Quick Start Music. You sign up for this, you are going to be making music in a day. Dean Talks Music is like, that's a good podcast name. That's a good YouTube channel name, but it's not a good course name. So it came down to either having two kind of overlapping brands of Dean Talks Music and Quick Start Music, or just rebrand one of them and have it get kind of absorbed into the other. And that's what I ended up doing. And now actually that YouTube channel is kind of defunct for now, to be honest. I was posting videos there. I was posting tutorials there, but I couldn't crack the issue of making it go big. You know, I'm such a YouTube like strategy theorist. I think so much about how to make a channel go big. And I don't know if I'm cutting ahead of a future question here, but that's what my second channel, I don't know, fifth channel, eighth channel at this point. That's what Longest Solo Ever 2 is my approach to making a channel where I talk about music in a theory and production educational context, but in a way that's going to go big. And I wrapped that, the medicine of learning music theory and form and composition and production in the fun candy-coated shell of reaction videos and challenges in a very YouTube-y format. But it's still really just the gateway, the top of funnel to Quick Start Music. And in every video, I shout it out and tell people to go check it out. And it's been converting really well. It's great. I think that is a much more effective approach than me trying to say, like, this is how you use a compressor. You know, like, that's not fun for anyone to watch.
So do you think it would hurt the Longest Solo Ever brand to just put all that into the one channel? Like, if Quick Start Music wasn't doing well, like, why not? Well, I've already got a huge following here.
Yeah. Oh, so I can talk for hours about YouTube strategy. So there were at one point one channel, and this is a struggle I had up until I started the Quick Start Music channel, which actually, before it was Quick Start Music, it was called DiMarzo Recording. And I think even if you watch the very first videos on that channel, you'll see the DiMarzo Recording stinger at the beginning of it. But those were all originally on one channel. If you go back far enough on my main channel, you will see a bunch of tutorials. You'll see guitar lessons. You'll see a whole bunch of stuff. But I split them off because YouTube, while I do believe you can have variety on a channel, you look at like Ludwig, or there are so many channels, Mr. Beast, of course, doing anything and everything on that channel. Your channel has to have one value proposition that it gives people. And for some people, that value is the person. For Ludwig, it's that. I think for Charlie, Moist Critical, Penguins, whatever, it's that. People will watch him do anything because he's him. Markiplier is that. Jacksepticeye, all these people. They may be kind of focused in one thing, but they have a value proposition, and that's themselves. For Longest Solo Ever, it could be that, but I had, for one thing, built it so strongly into Friday Night Funkin' that I certainly couldn't mix in the educational content with that. They would not take that medicine. I did a few tutorials for Friday Night Funkin' specific stuff on there, but on the other hand, then you're kind of standing on a ship that's going to sink sooner or later. And I wanted to get away from tethering myself to that game too hard because the hype has died down for it. What I settled on as my value proposition for Longest Solo Ever is original nerdcore songs, original songs about video games, movies, TV, other entertainment properties. And then Longest Solo Ever 2, there I was going to build it from scratch with a brand new audience where the value proposition is me. It's me reacting to videos. It's me making funny music challenges for myself. Anything and everything else I do outside of just music videos is there. So now we have variety from the start. The common thread is always me. And I've been blown away by how different that audience is. I run polls on both channels for what should I react to, and the answers are different. It's amazing. And the demographics of the channels are very different. Admittedly, on my main channel, it's largely a male audience, like 80, 90% even. On the second channel, it's about 50-50. Or maybe 50% male, and then the other 50% not identifying as male. Whether it's female, non-binary, prefer not to answer. But it's wild just how different the demographic breakup is when it's the same person. So that's very interesting to me, and that says a lot about what you should put on the same channel and what you should put on separate channels.
One more about separate channels here. What happened to Tales of Rukon, your D&D channel?
We're all asking the same question. No. So yeah, Tales from Rukon was going very strong. That's a D&D group that a former coworker of mine at my old job, when COVID hit, when the world closed down, he reached out to me and said, hey, we had played D&D a couple times before, I think literally maybe 3 times at my house. He reached out to me and said, hey, we're all bored out of our minds. I'm thinking of putting together a group. Do you want to play like every Friday night or something? And for a year and a half straight, me and 4 other people played D&D every single Friday night, a single campaign, without missing a single week, which if anyone plays D&D, that's impossible to get a group together that consistently. We played for a year and a half straight playing that campaign. And at a certain point, me and another one of the members, we were both streamers. We were like, hey, what if we tried this? What if we tried making a stream? What if we did this live? And we did that for a few years. We recorded each one. I edited a lot of them and posted them on YouTube. And then the other streamer, they left. They had personal stuff going on. They weren't enjoying the stream as much anymore. It felt like work, and it felt like work for all of us, but for them in particular, it wasn't a good time to do it. So they left, and we all kind of realized how much they were the glue holding us together. And we did a few more streams. We moved to offline, just recording it and then editing and posting it. But we haven't done one in forever. We still play pretty often, actually, and we've recorded all of them. We have a massive backlog of editing, but there's a certain degree of I hate to say it, but like I was the only one editing. And I'm also running, 2 other YouTube channels. I can't do it all. and one of the other guys picked up a lot of the editing work, and huge points to him for that. But it's hard to keep up with. It was hard because we weren't seeing a ton of results from it either. You know, we didn't get monetized on that channel or anything. And it was difficult, and I felt really burnt out about it. I also have really bad ADHD, which went undiagnosed for most of that. I finally got a diagnosis last year, and that explained so many things. But so that led to me really neglecting the work on that a lot of the time. And yeah, it just kind of fizzled. We're still playing. We still have fun. I'm still wonderful friends with all of them, but it's tricky. It's tough.
Yeah. As you say, because I have a D&D group going right now, but yeah, you know, can you make this week? No, that doesn't work for me. It's impossible to get people together just for that part of it. Never mind, you know, all the extra work you're doing trying to get it online.
Right. So we'll see. I have hopes of reigniting it at some point, but it's definitely the hardest thing to figure out on my list right now.
I know you're pretty excited. You've said you're excited about some of the collabs you've got on the horizon. Ooh. Can you tell us any of them, or are they all under wraps right now?
I really don't think I can. I can say I could give the general like outline of what they are. For one, I'm so thankful for the fact and blown away by the fact that a lot of these people have reached out to me. Like, a lot of the collabs I've done already, I'm a shy person. I don't tend to do a lot of cold DMs and say like, hey, you want to work on something? And so a lot of the collabs you've seen from me in the past have been people reaching out to me, which I'm so thankful for. One I did reach out on is one of my favorite nerdcore artists. And they and I are going to work on a new original song, which should be coming out in the next month or two, I'm hoping. One of my like biggest all-time heroes in the genre. Another is one of my favorite producers in the Friday Night Funkin' scene. Just DM'd me this morning asking me to throw some guitar parts on a new song they're working on. And I recorded one of my favorite guitar solos I've ever played this morning. So that's awesome. And that's what actually prompted that tweet. I was like, man, this week can't get any better. And then last week, and this is the one I super can't talk about at all, but someone reached out to me to start a larger long-term project, which I'm very, very excited about. So yeah, a lot of awesome, wonderful things going on. The main channel is doing well. The new channel is blowing me. The Longest Solo Ever 2 is outperforming Longest Solo Ever 1, which I can't make any sense of. It's amazing. So everything, I'm very, very happy and thankful for everything that's going on right now.
Oh, that's awesome. You're going to have so many live streams you'll have to do.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Well, Longest Solo Ever, that is your handle on YouTube, Twitter, Spotify, presumably on several things.
Yep.
Dean DiMarzo, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.